Well, this is me dealing with a setback. I forgot the correct way to put the boards in for the V-racks, and I also discovered that it needs to be sitting on something very solid and flat, because as I was stacking it, it pitched forward and I had to jump out of the way. So what I'm going to have to do is start over, and I'm going to have to figure out a different place to put it or something to put underneath it so that it won't fall. And I'm rather frustrated with this right now, even though I sorted a lot of wood. I sorted all of that stuff into a pile to be shredded, and I have a better organized pile of stuff that has to be cut with the chainsaw. And there's only a few more logs on the original pile when I first started, and when I was when I wasn't as unwell. There's only a few more logs that need to move away from there right now. So it's not zero progress. My mind, just like I didn't get done what I needed to do, it's dragging out forever and ever. I'll never get on time. And that's not coming to my mind as hardly today. It's never going to end. This is just one setback after another. My mind isn't doing that automatically anymore. So that's a testimony, because normally it would. But I'm learning something so I can expect to have things like this. I've never made V-racks before to stack firewood. And stuff that won't stack well is the first thing that's going to get burnt. So it's kind of over here together. And that's, it isn't nothing. And I learned something. And I'm a little bit too frustrated, though, anyway, to mess with it right now. So I'm going to move on to preparing the chainsaw to deal with that. But I'm handling setbacks a lot better than I used to. And I didn't realize how irrational that thinking was until I'm looking back on it, realizing that I don't think that way anymore. So, yeah, I'm getting better pretty good here. So you need to remember that, look at the bright side, and while those thoughts crowd into your head and the emotions come with them, just focus. I put effort into telling myself out loud the good things that came of it, the stuff I don't have to do over again, or what I learned from something like this when I have an important project that is, needs to get done so I can get on to other stuff. So definitely tell yourself the truth about what you learned from it, and what you can do different going forward, and how it's an opportunity to do better the next time that you learn something you probably wouldn't have learned another way. And tell yourself that you learned something that you probably wouldn't have learned another way, and then just do it better. Tell yourself that you learned something. Tell yourself you learned something you wouldn't have learned another way, and keep going. Have your moment if you need it to, like, cry it out or try to do something more fun. Tell yourself every time that those unpleasant thoughts, those thoughts of I can't do this, or see, I can't do it, it never fails, of course it's going to be that way, what would you expect? Well, kind of, yeah, what would you expect? I'm learning something. It's going to be messed up sometimes. And I just letting the words of overwhelmedness coming into my head, and then I would indulge it and get myself more overwhelmed. So I had to arrest that and just say, these are the good things. These are the things I learned. These are the opportunities for good that are in this. And I did that for a couple of, at least a year, maybe two, before, increasingly consistently, before I got to this point where I said, wait a minute, I didn't even those thoughts were not what slammed into my head like a runaway freight train when that happened. It was a lot more muted, and the things that I learned, and the get up and keep going, and how I'm going to solve this problem, and the fact that I've learned something, and that this is part of it, and that that's therefore a good thing, is what was more in my head. That's healing. That's what we want to look for and look forward to. And don't worry about, I didn't have that come into my head, I'll never. Yes, you will. It took me a while to get here.